right. We are back
We're back.
I think this is episode 4. I don't know if it's 4 or 3, but I get lost in accounting.
No, it's 4.
It's 4, right?
It's 4. 1,
Okay.
2, 3, 4. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I be getting lost.
I get it because there's a lot, and we have our notes. So I too get lost, but I have the attention span of a fruit fly, so I have to keep everything else up. It's giving all week. I've been telling people I'm like I feel like a puppy when they're like, "Ooh, shiny thing, shiny thing, shiny thing." Like, the slightest thing. So I have everything open in 900 tabs, and while it does make my tummy hurt, I can keep up with things when I can find them. So,
I could not work like that, honestly, truly.
listen, I can't either, but we're
But here we are.
Yes. I'm trying my best. That's all you can do, Wake up in the morning, wash your face, and try your best.
That's
all right.
true.
So
what are we talking about?
This episode, we're going to talk about the R's and the S's of TV. Now, if you're like, what are the R's and the S's? Why wouldn't it be the A's, the B's, the C's, the D's, every other letter except the R's and the S's? It's because there are 5 little words that I feel like really encapsulate a moment in TV right now that a lot of us have had enough of, okay? And all these words start with R's and S's. So, those words are
they?
Reboot.
Okay. I love a reboot sometimes.
Revival.
Mm-hmm.
Remake.
Oh, okay.
Sequels and spin-offs.
Wow. You wasn't playing.
Yeah, R's and S's, okay?
It was really the R's and the S's.
Yes, the R's and the S's of TV. So many letters. But the thing that's really interesting is there are all of these words, right? And they all actually, I think, mean different things or like refer to different things. But we are sort of in a time where everyone is just oversimplifying everything. And now everything just gets called like a reboot. And I'm like, that's not a reboot. That's something else. So
even a proficient TV watcher like myself.
Yes, a professional, if you will.
Be getting things confused.
It's just easier.
I'll call a revival a reboot in a second.
But also, to be fair to you, like, it's not really your fault.
It's just so much, sis. It's just a lot.
Yeah. And if everyone else calls it that,
then that's what it is.
Like, that's not a reboot.
But actually,
it's a spin-off. They're gonna be like, if you don't shut up with your high acidity,
I'll take me and my HBO and we'll go elsewhere.
I think you mean your Max. Oh, I meant to take a picture. It happened so fast, and I couldn't. To be honest, my hands were full, and again, I distract easily. I was walking across the street, trying not to get hit by a bus, and I looked up at one of the bus kiosks. I live in New York, for anyone who has context, so lots of bus kiosks, and it was one that was electric, and so I couldn't take a picture. But the moment I looked up, was Guy Fieri's face all up in the camera. Hands spread wide, giving spirit fingers, and across the bottom it just said Max.
Oh,
and I was like,
God.
"Oh, it's happening!"
I cannot believe that's my life now.
The HBO brand is being married with Guy Fieri's frosty spiked tips, and the girls are gonna be sick. And by girls, I mean you, aka gender neutral GWORLS.
It's definitely me. Definitely me.
I'm excited. I cannot wait. I get to watch Barry and then roll over and be like,
Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives?
Yes! Go on! The Emmys are going to be abundant and flowing for the girls. Again, gender neutral. I can't wait. Listen, I'm already watching HBO with commercials because whoever's account I am using.
They have the ad account?
I think so.
Okay,
I'm watching a movie right now, and I was like, we just going to do a commercial break in the middle of this scene? Oh, okay. All right, go off.
Listen, that app's not going to pay for itself.
I know. Listen, because I'm not paying $19.99 or whatever because I don't pay for this at all. So I digress. But anyway.
Yes,
so
sorry. The R's and S's.
Okay. Let's start with the big boy baddie bins of it all, the reboot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How would you define what a reboot is?
To
And I'm
me,
gonna
a
also
reboot.
play podcast producer, and I'm gonna look up a definition.
Okay, so to me, a reboot is a show or a movie that was canceled
Hmm.
or stopped.
Hmm.
But then now that I think of it, is that a revival?
Okay,
No,
come
that's a
on,
reboot. That's
come
definitely a
on,
reboot.
come
It's a show. My definition is any content that was on TV,
on. Hmm.
um, that ended at some point, um, and they bring it back.
Okay.
But when they bring it back the same premise, same cast.
Hmm. Okay. Interesting.
Am I
Okay.
right?
Mm.
Now I'm so confused because what I just said, I'm like, that could be a revival. You see, this is the problem
This is the
me
problem.
and the listeners are having.
This is the problem. So, okay. I've added 5 new
Wait,
tabs
I
since
think
we
that's a
started.
revival, actually.
See, okay, I've added 5 new tabs of definitions. I'm just clicking things and hitting control, command plus, new tab. So we're gonna shift through a few things. So part of that was right. Now, when you just
Wait,
straight
because
up,
Bel Air is a reboot.
yes,
Okay, so it's the other way around then. So a reboot,
right?
yeah,
Not this whole
yeah.
episode being the sound of me Googling, is Bel Air a reboot? Sorry to everyone. Clickety clack.
No, I think that this is great. I'm basically playing the listener. I literally think if Bel Air is a reboot, not a
Okay. Mhm.
revival, then I'm right.
Okay. So one more time. Reboot
Hmm.
for clarity. Define it.
Reboot for clarity, a show that ended.
Hmm. And
Wow,
then
I
comes
just.
back. You said same people.
Oh yeah, same cast.
Okay. Just kidding. It was a half a. It was like a. Like it
Eh,
was one. So
like a maybe.
technically, so this is the thing that makes it right, and this is the thing that makes it wrong. So a
Okay.
reboot, when you just straight up Google reboot TV definition, the
Uh huh.
Wikipedia little pop up, like the text that pops up automatically, a television series can return to production after cancellation or a long hiatus. Right. So far, like check, you are
Hmm.
correct.
Okay.
Where this deviates, right, and where this gets confusing, a reboot disregards the previous continuity of a work.
Okay. So I had it flipped.
So when
Got
you
it.
were like same, and that's why I was like same people, because think about it, right? Like it's not Bel Air's not Bel Air is a reboot, but by your definition, it's the
It-
same
right. Right.
cast. It's not the
Yeah.
same cast, it's the same characters.
Correct. Correct.
That's what
If
it
it
is.
was the same cast, it would be a revival. But because it's all new
Yeah.
cast.
And I think there's gray area, right? So like I didn't watch it, but like that 70s show and that 90s show,
Uh
like
huh.
is a lot kind of like that's kind of a thing where it's like that's a reboot.
Yep.
The parents are now grandparents, but the
Yep.
kids, aka like Mila Kunis and
Yep.
everybody, like they're not in it, but like their kids are in it. So
Right. Right.
like it it actually plays along with the continuity, but I think that that's also because the show is like that 70 show, and then if we're going to do a show called that 90 show 20 years later, like it makes sense, you know what I mean? The continuity
Right.
would continue. But
Right.
for a lot of other shows like Bel Air, even, right? Or like, I mean, a gajillion other reboots, I can't even think of any, but there are so many. They don't do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Bel Air,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like the same premise, right? But it's a totally different spin.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm following now.
okay, so now we've got our general little definition.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about reboots in general. So, how do you feel about reboots? Like the rebootification of TV? Like what generally
That's great.
what are your first thoughts?
I'm usually the apprehensive one when it
Okay.
comes to reboots. I think off off rip, I'm usually like, was there like no new idea for this?
Yeah.
Like, um, but right, I will admit, I think it also always depends on the actual reboot itself. Because I say that because sometimes a reboot can be done well enough where it is universally or more or less liked, right? Um, but I feel like as viewers, especially in 2023, people are getting kind of sick and tired of the R's and the S's that
Mm,
like when they hear it, the first thought is like, we couldn't get a new idea, like we had to like,
yeah.
and I think a lot of that has to do with IP, which is a conversation for a later day, but like a lot of it is like, oh, this is people like this. They'll like it again if we just put a new sheen on it and shoot it with
Right.
some high def cameras.
Yeah.
So that's like my general feeling usually.
I typically am automatically off rip, like, oh, okay, cool. So there were no new ideas in the idea vault. Like, this feels
Yeah.
lazy. Like, I definitely am that camp. But I do think that, like, sometimes I think that it's interesting, like, and I literally just had to Google reboot TV shows because I could not think of things off the top of my head. I've
Hmm.
had a long day, folks. And I think that looking at this list of what comes up automatically, like, I'm realizing that I don't always feel that way. So some of the shows that like have come up in this little like, when you popular reboots or top TV picks for you when you Google best TV reboots, that I'm like, oh, I did feel differently about it for one reason or another. Or shows like I watched the new I like reboots of like sort of the like campy family, we're super rich,
Yeah, yeah,
messy,
yeah.
family dynamic shows of like the 70s and the 80s that like were have been
Hmm.
remade. I think that like reboots of shows that like are based off of IP that existed when I was not alive feels very different. So like
Ah, okay.
Dynasty, like I was alive, but I was a child, like a
Yeah,
toddler when 90210 was like at its peak, right? So
yeah.
like I like the new Dynasty, and I've been like, oh, maybe I'll like pay to rent them or buy them on Amazon to like see Diane Carroll in this. Like I think that there's something there that feels different because I'm like, oh, it's been 30 years, right?
Hmm.
But like a Gossip Girl is an interesting one for me because I'm like, to me, I don't, I didn't enjoy the updates, but I could appreciate that like a lot of the updates were made and there were a few nods to like, oh, if you watched the original, then
Hmm.
you'll get this joke, right?
Hmm.
I think that like I haven't seen Bel Air, but I do think that it's really interesting that they were like, we're gonna take this and we're gonna flip it, and it's going to be
Yeah,
dark and not a comedy. Or like I loved
yeah.
this show on Netflix that got canceled one day at a time, and like that apparently was a sitcom that like my mom knew about, and I was like, I didn't know about that. So like it's not always all bad. I think the issue is when I'm like, girl, now you making a reboot of something we just saw, and
I
it's
think you bring up a really good point about reboots that are made that we lived through
yeah.
prior. Because
Mhm.
to your point, I think that's why I was so apprehensive about Bel Air. Um, because I was like, oh my God, like I was a kid and I love that. And like I have a specific memory to that specific IP.
Right.
But like if they remade the Brady Bunch, I'd be like, okay, well, I didn't see the first one, so
Oh,
it
I
doesn't
was
really
I
matter.
was a big Brady Bunch kid. I was like 7, being like, "Nigga night, let's go." Which is interesting because like the Wonder Years, I hated that show as a
Hmm.
child.
Hmm.
Hated it. I'd be like, "Oh, there goes that Savage Boy. It's time for me to change the channel." And they remade it, and the family's black, and like that's kind of interesting to me. But like it falls under the like Bel Air, you know what I mean? Kind of like we've pivoted like who this is for and like what story it is. We're just using the universe, right? Or like the
Hmm.
story mechanism. And I think that like one thing that it seems like Bel Air has done, and something that our friend Nate actually said this about um the Proud Family.
Oh yeah, that's another one. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not really watching that one actually.
I've seen a few
Is that a
episodes.
reboot or a remake? That's a reboot, right?
Reboot because it basically
Or a revival is what I wanted to say, not
oh
remake. Because to me,
uh
that sounds like a revival, isn't it?
it sounds like yeah. See, this whole episode is like and then clickety clack. Gotta Google. I don't know. I think it. Part of me is like it is a revival, but like it also feels like a proper reboot because by its definition, like they modernized it,
Uh
right?
huh.
So like
Hmm.
there are elements that like feel like a little TikTok generation like nod, right? Whereas like I don't know. This is making my head hurt. But also they've given it a different name, so that feels different than revival, right? Because it's like the Proud Family colon louder and prouder or something like that.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, well now we got a name change, but like that's a show that feels like it's like not for like teenagers, it's for us, like the people who watched it.
Right. Right.
And that's what I think Bel Air kind of understands is like they understand like oh, this is not, we're not writing a show for people that watched it the first time, like as it aired every week. This is for the people who like grew up watching the reruns on Nick at Night. And
Hmm.
like they understand that. So I think part of what makes it successful is like understanding who used to really watch this and like where those people are at in their lives now. And like, how can we make something that serves them now?
Hmm. Hmm.
You know?
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. Actually.
I feel like that's the way that I'm like I'm into it when that's the case. Now, I feel like um some of this I am sort of like it feels a little too soon. Oh, too soon. Yeah. Let's kick this bucket down the road by
Okay, here's
10
a question.
years.
Like, how soon is too soon? Like, what's your like? Is it 10 years? 20 years?
It's weird because I feel like I want to be like definitive. Here's a time frame. I just am like it's the vibe. Like it's we're running off vibes over here, and the vibe is it's too soon. Like I think
Listen, these studios ain't running on vibes, Tay.
okay,
They're
well,
running on
listen.
what's gonna make us money.
Well, the you're gonna make money based off of what my vibe is. Okay, if I'm vibing, then you're vibing with my viewership. But I don't know because it's like sometimes it feels like it's like dang, this show is 9 seasons and it just ended like 5 years ago. Like, can we get some breathing room? Right? Like, that was Gossip Girl. Like, that show started when I was like a sophomore in high school. It went through me being in college, and they rebooted it like 6 years after me being out of college.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, dang, like, hold on a second.
And you're like, wait a minute.
And then, and they brought back one of the characters who like has a kid that goes to the school, and I'm like sitting here doing the math, and I'm like, is Georgina even old enough to have a kid that old? Like, it don't even make no sense, but you're trying to, so I don't know, dog. Do you have any
What if they
idea?
question for you? What if they rebooted Lost? Would that be enough time? Like it's been Lost came out a while ago.
Yeah. So, okay, here we go. Is this thing on? Tap, tap, tap. 1 2 1 2. I'm about to spit a bar. I think part of what determines if it's too soon or not is like how much has the world that we actually lived in changed? And like, can you bring some of that change into the world of the show to make it new and interesting?
Yeah.
So with Lost, yes, because I'm like, technology has changed so much. And like, I'm like, it feels like technology and kind of like, conspiracy and like all these things that like sort of played a role in the show have changed so much that you can pick that up, put that in a new time, and like it'll feel different and it'll feel refreshing, even if it's the exact same story. But like something like Walter White and company for Breaking Bad, I'm like, people are still dealing drugs the same way. No. I don't need the same, like, what are you going to bring to it that, like,
Mhm.
you couldn't have conceived of when this show was originally made?
Yeah.
And, like, Gossip Girl, I think, like, when the show, I know that you're super caught up on all the Gossip Girl history ever, but, like, that
Yeah,
show,
tuned
right?
in.
You are Gossip Girl. Spoiler alert, it's Dan Humphries, aka Sankara. Actually, that's kind of really the same character. But it's not a spoiler because that show came out, it ended literally 10 years ago. But that show, the whole thing, the first time was like, it was a blog. Like Gossip Girl was a blog. And then when they rebooted the show, Gossip Girl ran an Instagram account. And
Mhm.
like, that's interesting. So, like, in theory, I was okay with that. But I think that some of the choices that they made, aka teachers being Gossip Girl, the show is canceled, so it's not even a spoiler. Like, there's nothing to spoil. Like, that's crazy. Like, that, that was something I just couldn't get behind. So, long-winded way of saying, like, how much has the world changed and can we bring new life to the story we're telling? If so, statute of limitations is up. If not, leave it where it's at. That's my take.
The Taylor statue of limitations.
Yeah, aka it's just vibes. Wake up today. What's the vibe? No statute. What's the vibe tomorrow? Statute. Like in effect.
So, okay. So then explain to me, um, what is the difference then? Is it the same for you when it comes for a revival?
Yeah. So a revival to me is just a show that went away and they brought it back. That's it.
After like 5 years or something like that. Same
Honest.
cast,
Now
same same story.
here's the thing. Okay, same cast is this is an oxymoron, but it's both relevant and irrelevant at the same time.
Ah,
Like,
okay.
okay, I'll tell you why in a second. Same story, typically yes.
Mm.
It typically is the exact same story, right? Now, okay, here we go. Most of the shows that are revivals, especially like recent revivals, are animated. And animated shows don't rely on cast. It's about the character, right?
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
if you're a voice actor and you can imitate the voice of Tommy Pickles, I don't need the original Tommy Pickles. We just gonna hire you. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
if I'm Nickelodeon, right? Like, and we own the likeness or whatever. So a revival to me feels like they bring it back. It doesn't really matter when. And a lot of animated shows also don't really have storylines or plot points. Like it's so like episodic, right? So it's just like, are we just set in the same world? Do y'all look the same? The animation style may have changed a little bit. The technology, the lines are now crisper. But like for the most part, like there's shows that have been canceled and brought back,
Yeah.
you know? And
Mhm.
so I actually looked this up because I was like, wow, it's giving lots of revivals. And basically, up until 2012, there were about 3 shows that were like being revived each year. And I think this goes
Mhm.
back to like the 70s, right? Like where they were like,
Mhm.
oh, we'll bring back the show. It was like canceled, right? We'll bring it back. In 2013, from 2013 to now, right? 95 shows have been revived. Like across all of those years.
That's kinda crazy.
So that's like 10. If we're breaking it out across evenly and we're
That's
not,
a lot.
if we were, it's like 10 shows a year.
That's a
So
lot.
I was like, this is a lot. And and we're not calling them revivals, we're calling them reboots, which again, these are revivals, but okay, same thing but different. So I went and I looked to see specifically what shows are being revived this year in 2023.
Mhm.
Here is the list, and I would like to circle and highlight my point about animation. Um, I don't know how to say this because I'm an adult, and I know that
Don't do that.
I don't like this little boy because he's annoying.
Caillou?
Caillou,
Caillou.
Caillou. Yes, Caillou is getting a reboot. Clone High is getting a reboot. Dora the Explorer. Now that's a CGI revival. Okay, so it's giving live action. Futurama, that 70 show slash that 90 show that already came out. Looney Tunes Adventure, Total Drama, Totally Spies, X-Men, the animated series, Daredevil, Rugrats, Rugrats all grown up. The Amazing World of Gumball, Barney and Friends, Darkwing Duck, and Dora the Explorer, which sounds like it might be like an animated situation.
The only one I knew of was the obviously the one that you just said is Daredevil, which was the only revival that I could think of. But my God, that's a lot.
Hilarious. I'm like, I don't know what that one is. I knew Rugrats was coming back. I watched Totally Spies as a kid on Cartoon Network.
I used to watch that.
Yeah, the girls are coming back, okay? Who needs Charlie's Angels, okay? I feel like I drew so many comics as a kid of their little adventures. I watched Clone High, which was like a not kids show, but it's animated. And then I knew Futurama was coming back. And obviously that 90s show, that 70s show, it's already aired, but yeah. So like the revivals are coming back. Like the revivals are being revived. And I think my question for you is like, how do you feel like these shows will fare, right? Like I said, a lot of these
Ooh,
shows seem animated, and we've talked about, like, not on the
yeah.
podcast, but like Netflix specifically has been like, we got to cut all these animation projects because they're expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that these shows, have a good chance of surviving a season or two?
Aside, I would say, right. I feel like most of the animated ones are not gonna last long.
Okay.
Um, I think they're gonna last a season or two. To your
Okay.
point, I think they're expensive. Animation's expensive to make. Um, asi- thinking of also to your point, Disney is also like the king of doing that, of like reviving shows.
Hmm.
And the Daredevil revival is gonna be on Disney.
Okay.
And because people are kind of like souring on Disney right now, like who knows? I don't know if that's gonna be the same because the difference between and this is kind of goes to our point of like what's the definition of a revival, right?
Hmm.
When Daredevil was on Netflix, it was like this really gritty, rated R sort of like story about a blind man
That's
and
the
being
one
a
with,
superhero.
what's his name?
Charlie Cox.
Oh no, I was gonna. Oh, okay, my bad. Oh, never
Is that
mind.
his name? Did I get that right?
Well,
I think that's
you
his
did
name.
get that right. I was like, no, Mr. Jennifer Lopez, and I was like, oh, my bad. Not.
Oh, that's the movie.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
was like,
movie.
oh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the movie version of that. Yeah, you're right though. Ben Affleck. Um, and then, but we know because it's going on Disney, it's not gonna be the same grittiness, right? Because most
Mm-hmm.
Disney shows are like PG-13, catered to a younger audience. So
Right.
like, I don't know if that one's gonna last because I think the IP had already set a tone. And the tone is gonna be different, and I just can't predict whether or not it's gonna be the same. Um, it is interesting though. I think there's something to be said here that most of these revivals are animation, right? And I
Yeah.
don't know what that something to be said is because it seems it runs counter to my thinking that animation is hard to do, so they do less of it, but people are doing animation anyway.
Here they
So
are. They're like, here's like, I don't know if I had to guess, like 15 shows, and like
yeah, like that's so
10 of
weird to
them are
me.
animated. Well, you just mentioned Disney, which feels like the perfect segue into the third R, which is Disney's favorite R, which is the remake.
Yep.
How would you
Yep.
define a remake?
A remake is literally when I think of remakes, I think of Disney.
Okay,
Like
so
legit. I think
Sankara
of The
said
Lion
the
King.
dictionary definition is
I think of The Lion King,
Disney.
Jungle Book, Aladdin, Peter. Like I think literally, like I just know that because Disney knows their IP is so strong, it's just brand strong. The brand is like the Lion King brand is strong.
Yeah.
So they gonna remake that thing till the cow comes home. Like they're gonna give you one, and then
Until
10 years
Simba
later,
comes home. Oh,
they're gonna they're gonna make you one, and they're gonna wait 10 years. They're gonna be like, here's one more for you.
okay.
And you girls be showing out. You be going to see it.
Well, I was
So
gonna say, have you seen any? Can you think of any? Like when I say Disney reboot, remake, whatever. Like, are there any real like first thing that comes to mind because I saw it? Like what? what movie comes to mind? Like
I mean, it would be Jungle Book and probably
that's the
The
one I
Lion
think
King.
of. That's
Yeah.
the only one I've like really seen. Um,
I have not seen Cruella. I saw Aladdin.
okay.
Did not see Peter Pan's not even out yet, but and aren't they remaking Moana? I heard.
So no, actually. So here's our list of Disney remakes. Okay, thank you, Wikipedia. List of Disney live action adaptations and remakes of Disney animated films. And you can just hit me with I seen it, I haven't seen it. I'm trying to okay, starting with 2000 and oh wait, hold on. Starting with 1994. In 1994 there was a Jungle Book.
Huh?
Then there was 96's 101 Dalmatian. Then we got the Jungle Book Moagi story. What's his name? Moag. Wow, cut that from the audio.
Nope, keeping that in. Keeping that
2000, and this
in.
is where we're just gonna start like rattling through. 102 Dalmatians, Alice in Wonderland, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, Maleficent, Cinderella, and that was the one that actually that's the only one we've had so far. The Jungle Book was remade again. Alice Through the Looking Glass, Beauty and the Beast, Christopher Robin, Dumbo, Aladdin, The Lion King, Maleficent, and Mistress of Evil, Lady and the Tramp, Mulan, Cruella, and Pinocchio. Out of all of
Huh.
those, I've seen Aladdin.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen as a kid 101 and 102 Dalmatians, and then
I don't think I've seen that. So
with
don't kill
Glenn
me now.
Close.
I haven't seen any of those.
And then I saw the Jungle Book that came out in 2016.
Seen those.
I watched Beauty and the Beast at a hotel and I fell asleep. So I did not count that one. I watched the Aladdin one more than once, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think of Disney remakes, the first one I think of is the Jungle Book that came out in 2016. Jon Favreau did that one.
Yep.
I saw that in a movie theater, and I think
Same.
that
I liked it.
I did
I
not
didn't see that and was like, why did they remake this?
because that was the first. That was the first. Like that was really the well, it
The one
wasn't
that
the
kicked it
first
off.
one. Yeah, but that was like because it was like Cinderella came out in 2015 and Maleficent came out in 2014. But like
Or didn't they do like 7 Beauty and the Beasts?
no,
Isn't there another? Didn't they like 3 different Beauty and the Beasts?
no, it's just the one with what's her name? Harry Potter, Emma Watson. That's it. That's it.
And the animated one.
Right. Well, yeah. But
Okay.
like Maleficent to me doesn't really count because excuse me, Maleficent is a spin-off, which one of our S's, spoiler alert, off of Sleeping Beauty, right? It's not the
Mm-hmm.
same source material. A Jungle Book just looked cool, I think, because they're like, whoa, a talking, snake or whatever. That's spooky. But I feel like I did not watch The Lion King. I said, Beyonce cannot act, so I don't know what we're doing here.
Whoop!
I don't
Listen,
care. I don't
we
care.
seen Swarm. Please don't come for me. Let me just PSA.
Sankara said that was Taylor. Listen,
PSA. That was Taylor.
let me say
That
something.
was not me.
Taylor over here, okay, said it with her chest. That lady cannot act. I have seen a Pink Panther, okay? I have seen Obsessed. I have not seen The Lion King because I know all that I need to know. Did I say she can't do other things? No. Do we all have strengths and weaknesses? Yes. Is a strength acknowledging I cannot do this thing well and I will work at it? Work towards it. Dreamgirls was different because half of that movie, she was like, I'm going to sing and I'm going to out-sing the lady who I'm playing in this. That was a little different. I did not need to see her voice act. I just simply did not. And I think that, like, it also is kind of this thing that, like, we're about to deal with The Little Mermaid. Pew, 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 pew.
I have no interest in seeing that.
Absolutely none. Like, am I going to buy a ticket? Yes. Support her, right? But like, I don't, there's something about it where I'm just like, either animate it or don't.
Or don't.
Well, this hybrid business, it's dead. It's clipped. I saw Flounder and I said, not only am I having a nightmare tonight, that's the end of that. That's the end of that. And I think that like they're gonna try to do some cool things, and like it's clear that like from even what we've seen in trailers that like they use light and like
Mhm.
color to like mimic underwater and da 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 da
Mhm.
da. But like the movie is 2 hours and 15 minutes, so already a no. And then on top of that, I'm like, the first one is good as it is, and I just don't know that visually you can achieve something so smooth and seamless because of the element of water that like
Mhm.
it's not going to be enough to be like, whoa, talking thing, this is cool. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. No, I see what you mean.
like, and I feel like they're not going to have this issue with the other big reboot of a remake or whatever, or revival, reboot, remake that everyone's talking about, which is Lilo and Stitch.
Mm.
They're running into a separate issue with that movie at this point in time, but like I think that it's easy. They're gonna CGI and Stitch and they're gonna call it a day. And that's like the one element that like complicates this. Whereas like the Little Mermaid, I'm like, you gotta CGI in David Diggs is Sebastian. And then you gotta deal with lights and glares and somebody hold this refractor, like to give like it's just too much. The Lilo and Stitch drama. Are you aware? Are you aware of what's going on over there?
I am not. Please,
Okay,
please.
yeah. Let me put you on to what the Twitter TV Twitter girlies are really Twitter girlies are talking about. So, casting is a big drama right now for the folks at Lilo and Stitch. They first cast someone to play. Sidebar: I hated this movie, so I literally am like, I have no horse, aliens, nothing in this race. But I think her older sister was Nani. They've cast a girl whose lineage is that like her ethnic history is that like she is like a Hawaiian like native,
Mhm.
but she looks white.
Oh.
And then Nani has a crush on this man in the movie who is much more brown. This is very a brown looking
Ah.
person. Okay, but much
Uh-huh.
more Polynesian.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
they cast someone that he looked fine, like it was not giving like white passing. But then they found out that he was back in the day on Twitter throwing around racial slurs. So then he got axed, and like the day after it was announced that he was going to be in it. So then they had to recast him with somebody else. And
Oh
then
no.
there was someone that
See, this is why they should just not do it.
that's
Just
what I'm
like
saying. Like, and so basically, I'm speaking really slowly, and so let me get to the point here. I think that the thing that this is toxic, but it is what it is. Like, I think the issue that's ultimately at hand, and I'm like, this is something that like I don't think Disney is quite prepared for, is like how to handle like the nuances of like race in
Mhm.
these live actions, right? Like, I feel like representation is something that matters so much, and like
Mhm.
when they and I don't think that they're doing things poorly or maliciously, but I just think they're prepared for the backlash of how people feel about things. So like
Mhm.
with the Little Mermaid casting, right? Everyone was upset and they're like, well, the mermaids aren't real, so she can be anything. Well, she can't be a black redhead. Well, like everyone
Mm.
was just welling everything. And then it's like, okay, well, either see it or don't. Then Yara Shahidi is playing Tinkerbell, and lots of people are not thrilled about that. Then it's like with this Lilo and Stitch, and they're like, this girl is a white passing. What are y'all doing? Mulan didn't hit the way that I think they thought that it would hit.
That came and went.
Well, but also to be fair, that was a
It was
pandemic.
during the pandemic.
Yeah, that was a pandemic release. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just am like, I just don't think y'all know how to do that. And like,
Yeah.
there's an interesting reason why, like, I don't know. Y'all not over here talking about, oh, we're trying to do Princess and the Frog.
Mm.
You know
Mm.
what I
Mm.
mean? You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
That's my really long-winded way of just sort of being like, I don't know what they're
I
gonna
don't know
do.
if honestly, I get it. I think from a again, to my point before you started this conversation, for Disney, it's a money play,
Yeah.
right? It obviously worked for Jungle Book, right?
Mhm.
For actually probably for most of them, because I know Maleficent was also really popular, um, and Cinderella, and Disney always makes money, right? Because they make it so
Yeah.
it's family friendly. So are they gonna stop? The one I don't know whether or not they made money is probably like Dumbo.
Let's see.
'Cause I feel
They
like Dumbo, they make no money.
they did not. So the Dumbo had a budget of $170 million, and then they made at the box office 353 million, and that was pre-pandemic.
So they probably, like, broke even, if even,
Yeah,
after
by the
everything.
time that they like, yeah.
After everything. So,
Whereas
like,
like
to
The
them,
Lion
though.
King, it was almost $2 billion.
Right, right,
Beauty and the Beast was
right,
1.3 billion. The
right.
Jungle Book was $966 million.
So that's why they keep greenlighting these, because to them, it's worth it, like, just from a price perspective.
You know what else I
So
think? Oh,
they're
go
gonna
ahead.
keep making them.
You know what else I think is happening? Remember back in the day when you were like, well, I don't know, but like I remember like being a kid and they would do those commercials with like releasing from the Disney Vault for the
Uh-huh,
first time in 25 years, right?
uh-huh,
So they
yep.
would basically, do that thing where they'd be like, okay, we made tapes of the Lion King, and now we're putting it in the vault, and now young niggas cannot buy this at all unless it's secondhand. But good luck finding
Mhm.
it. And then 10 years later, we'll release it, and then there's a mad dash for everyone to be like, they brought out Sleeping Beauty from the vault. Like I gotta get this DVD now, right? And
Mhm.
so they can't do that anymore because it's all on streaming.
Yeah,
There's
that's
there's
true.
no like supply demand. There's no like
Yeah,
enticing people to be like, you got to get it now or it's gone forever. And so I
right.
also think that they do these reboots because they're like, well, the kids of today are gonna look and be like, why y'all drawing animation with pencils and paper? This is crazy.
Yeah.
Where are the computer graphics?
Ungrateful old lasses.
Right. They're literally like, ew, not y'all doodling an entire movie. And you're like, it's Tarzan. It's a work of art. What are you talking about? And so I think that they also do these reboots because it's basically more content to the library. And if they can get kids like to be obsessed with Beyonce's The Lion King, not in this house, but somebody else's house, then maybe parents will be like, oh, fine. Like, if that's the movie you're stuck on right now, like we will keep paying for this service. Um, but yeah,
Yeah. I again, I I will entertain some of them. I can't promise you I'm gonna watch every single.
okay, let's see. We got a quick list of what's coming up. You tell me if you're interested or not.
Okay, okay.
Coming out this week. Peter Pan,
Yo, can you imagine?
Peter Pan and Wendy. You going? Yeah, I feel like
Nope,
it's
next.
okay. The Little Mermaid. You already told me it was a no for you.
Imma catch that on Disney Plus.
Okay, okay. We're getting Snow White a year from now.
Is that live action?
Wikipedia says yes, it's live action.
I do like me some Snow. I don't know, no.
You like Snow White? Not
I used to watch
creepy.
Snow White.
Oh my goodness! Not the girl sleep the whole movie, and it's just creeps being like she sleep. Like I don't know. Ooh, okay, okay. Adaptation. We're getting Mufasa colon the
Oh,
Lion
yeah, that's the
King.
one Barry Jenkins is making, right?
Yeah.
I'm good.
Oh, oh, oh. Okay, well, 4th of July weekend 2024, they finna get y'all money, especially if Little Miss Beyonce pops up in any capacity.
You know what? That's very true.
Yeah, it's the 4th
I'm
of July
saying that
weekend.
now.
They're putting money into this.
Yeah, you're
Like,
right.
'cause
You're right.
that's Barry. Okay, we got Lilo and Stitch. Yay or nay?
Ooh, nope. Not after what you just told me, girl.
Hercules.
Ooh.
Now Guy Ritchie is doing that one, and he also did Aladdin.
I did not. I thought Aladdin was kind of. Eh.
Okay. All right. So on the fence, we've got two sequels, Aladdin and The Jungle Book, back to back.
Wow, Disney don't stop.
Okay, well, here, I'll just rattle off the rest that are to be
That's
announced for
crazy.
dates. We got Hunchback off of the Hunchback of Notre Dame. We've got an untitled Cruella sequel. We've got Tink, which is a Tinkerbell
I
situation.
imagine, yeah.
The Sword and the Stone, Robin Hood, an untitled Prince Anders film, which is, I don't know what that means, but it says the source material is Aladdin. We get another Bambi, The
Of course,
Aristocrats, and
of
Moana.
course, of course,
Oh, you are right. Moana, because Dwayne The Rock Johnson said he would
of
come
course.
back
Yeah,
and do it.
to do a live action of the same movie.
Again,
Why are we
less
remaking
than
something
10
that was
years.
like 5 years ago?
Mm, 2016. By the time they get to it,
It'll be 10.
yeah, by the time they get to it, it'll be 10. So, I don't know. None of these are screaming, I gotta have it. I still watch Disney Plus.
Facts.
I just watch the original. Honestly, sometimes I'm like, say a prayer for my neighbors because I'm about to watch Tarzan 2 times in a row, and I don't care. Um, listen, Phil Collins snapped on that soundtrack. But that's
Facts.
interesting. Yeah, that was not on the list either. Okay, so we are still going to talk about remakes, but let's do a little bit of pivot away from Disney. The other two big discussions around remakes right now, would love your take.
Mm-hmm.
Twilight and Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
Yay or nay?
So here are my takes on that. Twilight, I don't know. I don't know if anybody was asking for that.
People are excited for that.
I imagine people are, and to our point earlier, I think it's been long enough
Yeah,
where it might make sense, right?
let's see.
It's two things. Both of those things are happening for two completely different reasons to me. I think Twilight is happening because it's been long enough, but in Harry Potter's case, I think the brand is so strong still.
Mhm.
The Warner Brothers just released a video Harry Potter video game that made just gazillions of dollars. And I think the game came out in February of this year. So I think it almost made sense because they were like, wow, amidst all of the controversy with J.K. Rowling, with
Mhm.
all the transphobia comments and all of that, there still seems to be this. The brand is very sticky still,
Yeah.
and coupled that with the fact that HBO, well, Max, I gotta stop calling HBO Max. David, Mr. David Zaslav needs money and is reeling basically like embarking onto a new journey of Max between Warner Brothers and Discovery, and they need content. It was probably like the lowest hanging fruit to turn this into a, because I think what they're doing is turning into a show, right? And not
Yeah.
movies.
So this one is so chaotic because they are a French for you, international chaos. They're doing, they're committing to doing each book will be a season of TV spread across
Okay.
10 years or like, I guess 8 years. Because I think they're aiming
How
for
many books is it?
like, I literally just donated mine to a library like 5 days ago. I have no idea. Seven? I think it's seven.
Seven.
But they
Got you.
split, it's seven because there's 8 movies because they split the last one in half.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
But they haven't, they've announced all of these things. They haven't done casting. They haven't done like, so pretty much like, I think by the time that we're done with all of this, it'll be 10 years from now when we have a finale. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it is, it's an undertaking. I don't think this is a good idea. I think this is a bad idea. I think this is a very bad idea. I think this is
I
a
think it's gonna sell. I think it is. I
I
think
think
it's gonna make them a ton of money
how? It's on an app that they get one flat fee for.
because I think it's gonna make them a ton of money because again, it's the Disney thing, right? Like Harry Potter has rides. Harry Potter, like there's a
Right.
lot of things bundled with Harry Potter
They already
to
make
keep the
that.
brand strong enough, right? With all of like I'm sure they're gonna make another video game, right? Like again, it's all about keeping the IP and the brand strong.
I'm telling you, unlike the Disney stuff, and this is maybe where it like feels different, the books will keep the brand strong. Like
And that's exactly why they did it though. It's
the
because people are
show,
still reading it.
right? But this the show will not contribute to the bottom line of Warner at all, Max, whoever, like at all. Like to me, because it's like you already so you have the books, you get
Yep.
the movie. Books
Right.
plus movie is how we end up branching off to get everything else, right?
Right.
You got
But Warner doesn't make money from books or movie, probably.
well, right,
And
because
by Warner, I don't mean like Warner proper. I mean like David Zaslav,
sure.
right?
Now,
So like he needs money. He
right,
needs his own stream of revenue.
okay, but you already stream the movies, right?
Yep.
So people that
Hmm.
are into it are already
Yep.
coming to the app. It's one flat rate. Like, unless
Right.
we're about to get a a Max world where I can go play hometown and like fix up, a house on a roller coaster ride, like, and I can go to a diners, drive-ins and dives, Guy Fieri, roller coaster. Like, I don't understand, like,
Hmm.
you making this thing is not, if it's not going to spawn off into something else where you make money, this just feels like you're pouring or dumping a bunch of money into something, or people have a really contentious relationship with the fact that this author is going to be involved in this way in the present moment. I literally told you I just donated a bunch of like my Harry Potter books. I just also,
Hmm.
I skipped karate one day in the second grade to go get my first book signed, and I've been sitting on that as my financial insurance policy, which poof, there goes my rainy day fund.
Yeah.
But when I went to go donate those books, they were like, "Oh, thanks for bringing these in. We love that like people will get to experience these books without putting money into J.K. Rowling's pocket." So like the fact that like people have asked them like, how were y'all handling this over at
Yeah.
Max, right? And the fact that like the PR response was like, well, we're just gonna focus on what's on the screen. Like, we don't live in a world where like that's enough. And I'm just sort of like, to participate in this with her when the OG cast is like, remember that time y'all all invited us here to the little HBO studios to do a little reunion, and we told y'all do not bring this lady, and y'all didn't bring her? Like, to now then go back and like, we're gonna do something with her. Like, I think people feel strongly enough that like you're not going to see any financial gain or return by doing this, and this is an expensive thing to make.
I would agree with you on the only reason why I think, right? I I agree in the sense that like they shouldn't do that, right?
Right.
Right? Because like I think the the allegations are strong enough where I feel like they should be like maybe there's a different direction we can move into. But
Yeah,
like
it's just her
I
grief.
thought because I thought the same. I thought the same. But then I saw how much money they just made from this video game that came out in February. And
Well,
that to
who
me
made
is
the game?
insane.
Who made the
Warner.
game?
Warner.
Right. So y'all
Same
just made
company.
all this money without having to release the show. Just keep making stuff without releasing the show. Like,
But I'm
they,
telling you, their thinking is
wow, we're fighting.
because they made so much money from this game,
Sankara,
their thinking is the brand is strong enough to outlast that.
we're fighting. It's fine. We're
I'm telling
beefing.
you.
I don't.
And then when do you think the show will come out? Like in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
I
Especially if they just announced it.
Oh please, Moneybags over there, Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah, David's gonna release that show next summer.
Yeah, please. Are you kidding? I'm like, you're gonna see Harry Potter before you see The Last of Us season 2. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Mark my words. Like,
Yo, that would be
well,
nuts.
prepared to be nuts because
That would be
you're
crazy.
not getting your little alien show, zombie mushroom show. You're gonna get Harry Potter, which you could already watch in the same app, and it won't cost them any more money than what they're already paying in licensing fees. But okay, go off. Um,
My other thought is like, aren't there spinoffs? I thought those didn't do well.
they did not.
Didn't they do like what's it called?
I don't know, child.
Fantastic Beasts
Yeah,
and
it's a whole bunch
Where to
of.
Find Them. Did you watch those?
No, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm just like not like interested in hair. Like even nostalgia factor. I just am sort of like, well, I don't know. This just now feels weird and dark, and I'm good. So like,
Hmm.
I don't really revisit
So you're
the
not the target audience.
not any. Yeah, I'm like, if you had, I feel like in my childhood this meant something to me at that time.
Yeah, I just watched them 2 Christmases ago.
And how did you feel? Did you
I
read
love them.
books? Did you read
No,
any of the books? Okay.
no,
Um, yeah, I think that like it's so interesting talking to people or listening to people talk about how they like didn't read the books and they saw them, as adults and how they felt about
yep.
them and da 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 da. Da. And like for me, I'm like I don't even know because I don't have the attention span. I loved the third one. The third one, though, I will tell you, my dog Peter Pettigrew. Okay,
Which one was that one?
Scabbers the rat. Okay, when they realized that Ron's pet was the same person who sold out Harry and Harry's parents, Lily and James, I was like, wow, visually, cinema was never the same. I'll give you that. A lot of people hate that one. That was my favorite. But like
Which one is that one?
the
The
third
third
one,
one? What's it called?
Prisoner of Azkaban. No.
What
Yeah. I don't know, child.
was the second one?
That see, listen. You hear my
Is
nails?
Of Azkaban the one
I think it was Prisoner of Azkaban.
Alfonso Cuarón did?
Child, whomst?
The one who directed it.
Whomst? Like when I studied abroad, I like went to like the school that like Hogwarts is. My mama came to visit me, and we spent money to go to the studios, and like I was willing to. Okay, yes. So first one, Philosopher's Stone. Second one,
Mhm.
Chamber of Secrets. Third one, Prisoner of Azkaban. Fourth,
That's my
Goblet of
favorite.
Fire.
That's
Prisoner,
my favorite movie.
Goblet of
It's the
Fire.
best movie out of all of them,
Goblet of Fire.
I think.
The one with Cedric Diggory. Order of the Phoenix, Half Blooded Prince, and then Deathly Hallows.
Got it.
So yeah, it's a thing that I'm like, this is an interesting.
People feel strongly. Y'all feel strongly about y'all Harry Potters, man. Like I said, I was baffled. I was like, oh wow, people are still out here. Like
Yeah,
Brand is really as strong as I didn't think it was that strong, but apparently it is.
it was. It like I said, it was what it was for me in my childhood. I do think the brand is really strong. I walk past like there's like a Wizarding World of Harry Potter like experience.
Yeah, okay. First of all, this is how I know the brand is strong. And another thing, when the game came out, wasn't niggas on Twitter doing the sorting hat challenge on TikTok and on Twitter? First of
Yeah,
all,
no, there was a whole.
they spent a month on that when the video game came out. That's all I kept seeing on my timeline.
Yes,
To the point where like people were saying that like, yo, they were making up sororities and fraternities.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Some of those TikToks really.
The brand is hella strong.
It is.
Niggas are definitely gonna watch that shit.
100%. It is. It is. It is. I'm not even saying it's not. It is. It is. Like, I can be on my way to go get coffee.
I was hella confused. I was like, what is all these sorting hat things?
The line around for this experience, and I haven't been to it, but it's like not a big building. I'm just like, wow, y'all really popping off. Like, this is crazy.
Yo, crazy. Y'all go up. I was like, hey, yo.
But it's just a thing where it's like, it already exists. People already feel how they feel about reboots. Plus, we've got Miss, J.K. Rowling, with her Twitter fingers. Like, I don't know that this is going to yield the return. And then it also, again, is like a multi-year commitment. And this sort of
10 years is crazy.
Yeah, it feels kind of like, think about like if they were to be like, okay, well, in 5 years, we're going to remake Game of Thrones.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't wait a beat until there's 17 sequels.
But those are all new stories.
Agreed with you.
And the only thing that I think that this remake is gonna have, and then we gotta move on because we got to get to the two S's. The one this is gonna have that the other ones won't is like you can stretch out these ridiculously long books into 7-8 hours across episodes, and it will be a more true mirror copy of the original,
which is what people have been telling me. The Harry Potter heads have told me to shut up because they said the movies didn't do it justice because a season you can get so much within that world within the season. I was like, I felt like I got enough from what I saw on screen. But the Harry Potter heads were telling me, you don't
Yeah.
understand. The book goes in great detail and there's so much you can do. I was like, all right, I'm gonna shut up.
Well, you're gonna shut up and press play because pretty soon.
I mean, again, I like I said, I watched them 2 Christmases. I don't have the same attachment to a lot of people that I know, like Stan
Right.
Harry Potter. Stan.
Yeah. It's
Like
me.
J.K. Rowling, like they hate her, but like they stand the content.
They're there for it. Yeah.
And I was like, aren't we grown? But again, I stand a lot of things. I stand Game of Thrones, so I can't really say anything because that's
I
also fantasy and dragons. So.
I'm telling you, it really is a nostalgia for so many of those people. Like
I think it is. I think it is. I think it's what the story represents.
yeah, I think that that's the introduction to a lot of people who love reading. Like, like you were not binging shows as children, but the way people would
Correct.
be like, I reread these books every year, and I'm like, whoa, that's
Yeah.
I'm gonna go read this grass outside, but not for you. Or I'm like, give me, a book that gives me a series where it's like Judy B. Jones, and I'm like, she's not
Yeah.
out here on a death quest at the age of 12. It's just vibes. Ramona is fighting with her sister. Like that's what I got the bandwidth for. But okay. So
The S's.
yes, the S's. First S, sequel.
Okay, I love a sequel. There's plenty of sequels I love,
Okay, talk to you about
and
sequel.
the sequels to me, they're the. It's not confusing. You just had me in twisted in knots trying to figure out what the difference between a reboot and a remake. But a sequel, I get it. You know, the only thing though, I would say, is it like sometimes I feel like there might be statute of limitations on sequels.
Okay.
Like if like if the show came out 15 years ago, like a sequel is nuts. Like I'll give you an example.
Okay. Okay.
Um what's a recent sequel that just came out? Was it Dexter?
Oh, yeah. That one did come out, and
I guess that constitutes as a revival and a sequel.
uh,
Because like that's not even a revival actually. That's actually a sequel because the show ended and
mhm.
then they were like, "Psych, nah, here's another season."
So I think that sequels are a lot like revivals, but the show is not canceled. They've like formally closed the book.
Yes.
That's what I would call a sequel.
Yeah, I
Because
agree with that.
Dexter got closed. Like it wasn't like this ended on a cliffhanger. Like if they were like, we're gonna do Friends, but now they're in their 50s, I'd be like, okay, cool. Wait, sequel. Yeah, child, I'm
Yeah.
stressed. Yes. I'm back in knots. I need some water.
Yep.
Put my head down. This is too confusing. Um yeah, I don't think like I can't think of a ton of TV shows that I would consider sequels, but I can think of like movies, right? Where you're like,
Yeah, that's where it lives. Like sequels are like again another glaring one. Bad Boys franchise.
yes,
Bad Boys 1, Bad Boys 2 came out. 20 years later, these niggas are geriatric.
leave them alone. Their backs hurt.
They were like, let's make a third one. What?
But that's interesting because I'm like at that point it feels like it's more like it's more of like a Marvel sort of like universe that they're like a franchise. That's what you said.
That not yeah, I mean it is a franchise, but like
And that
it
feels
was
different than like
it was very much a
God,
continuation of the story.
we're fighting crime and then we're gonna keep fighting crime. Okay, like Creed.
Like Creed, right.
I never saw the other ones, but Creed.
Creed, I would say it falls on a. It would be either it would be a reboot of that franchise, right? Because it's the
Oh,
same character. Because like it's the Rocky franchise.
that's not a reboot.
Because it's the Rocky franchise that they took a character
That's a spinoff.
and. But is it a spinoff if the main character of the Rocky franchise is also one of the main characters in Creed?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
It's a spinoff. It's a spinoff.
shout out to a spinoff then.
I think it's a spinoff because
I think I'm inclined to agree.
I will say I'll give you maybe Creed 1 is the
It's the
sequel.
gray area one. The
Yes.
rest of them are definitely spin-offs
And
for
then
sure.
2 and 3 are spin-offs, but I'm like,
100%.
as someone who never saw Creed 1, 2, or any of the Rockies, I only saw Creed 3.
Mhm.
To me, my orientation to it is like spin-off, right? Because I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm like in the movie theater trying to like negotiate, like, who is this person? Is this, you know what I mean? Like, oh, like, have they been in the other movies and I just didn't know, whatever. So I can also concede and say that, like, because that's the only thing I saw, it is a little bit different. Something that I think is interesting. So the Hunger Games recently was popping on Netflix.
Mhm.
I did rewatch them because they were trending. And so I started Googling because I was like, I need to remember what happened because I don't like to be unnecessarily stressed by a movie that I'm not that pressed to, um, you know, I don't want to be stressed if I'm not that pressed to see it. And I
Yeah.
learned that we're getting a new Hunger Games in 2023 in November this year.
Wow.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, we have an EGOT.
Oh,
Wait, is she an EGOT?
who that be?
Yes, we have an EGOT. That will be in a that'll be in this sequel, but it's not a sequel, it's a prequel. But if it's considered a prequel, to me that's a
It's a
sequel.
spin-off.
Ooh,
Oh, it's a sequel.
not us
Okay.
fighting, yeah. I'm like, it's in the name.
But it's a prequel, not a sequel.
Yeah, it's just because sequel is just like, this happened after the original, but this is before the original, but it's like alignment of everything.
Right.
Viola Davis is the one that's going to be in it.
Oh, okay.
So she'll
Love
be in the
her.
new Hunger Games, which is, to me, is interesting because, like, we just had that discussion about Harry Potter and thinking about Twilight, right? And like, sort of
Mhm.
these all being young adult books, and like,
Mhm.
I think that
Is the brand as strong for this to succeed?
I don't think this is going to do as well personally
Mhm.
because the other Hunger Games are based off of books.
Got
So
it.
I think that, like, truly the same kids that, like, if we're like, who was reading the Hunger Games, who was reading Twilight, and who was reading Harry Potter, it's the Venn diagram is basically a circle, right? Like, a lot of people are reading those books, even though Twilight. No, it's not Twilight. I'm thinking of what were those Grey's books? What were those books? 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh,
Those
50
are
Shades.
those are fan fictions of that's based off of a fan fiction of Twilight. So
Got
that's
you.
where I paused. But like,
Okay.
with those other three, to me, kids' books, we make, new versions. I think
Mhm.
that Twilight hits with the emo kids in a really specific way. Like, that's like the horse girls, like the people that are like, I am not into being like the cool popular, I'm emotional, emo, broody. Like, those kids, I'm like, this is going to still resonate, I think, with that type of teenager.
Got it.
And I think that if they do it right, like, I'm like, pick Timothée Chalamet, cast him as Edward and keep it pushing, you're going to do great. You know what I mean? And I'm sure they're
Yeah.
going to get some like it girl, 22-year-old to be like new Bella Thorne, like whoever, like,
Yep.
not Bella Thorne, child, Bella Swan. I'm like, grab a girl that's like Zendaya and keep it pushing. I think it'll do really well.
Mhm.
Um, I think that with the Hunger Games, though, like, I don't know that kids today, like, the story doesn't like hit with like a particular demographic, right? Like,
Yeah.
you read the books, they were good. It was a wild story, it's a part of pop culture lexicon, but I don't know that like Gen Z,
Will
Gen
older
will get
folks
it.
show up?
No,
That's what I thought too.
no. I'm not paying money to see that. I rewatched The Hunger Games literally a month and a half ago, and there was a big Twitter moment. There was a scene in the second movie, and somebody had tweeted like a screenshot of this scene, and they were like, this was cinematic history and you had to be there because this was like the gag of the century. And I was like, yes, I do recall being in a movie theater gagged at that exact moment, right? And so there was like a fun like Twitter discourse around it, but like, Also, as an adult, I'm like, you want me to watch a movie where kids are killing each other and only one is gonna survive? This is crazy. This
Y'all
is
was eating it up though.
nuts. Yeah, because as
Y'all
a
was eating it
kid,
up.
you don't realize how demented it is. And now as an adult, I was like, oh yeah, you're right. You had to be there. And oh yeah, even as like a young adult watching this in the movie theater, I reminded like thinking about the books. As a 30-year-old woman watching this, I said, I gotta watch these babies kill each other, and it makes my chest hurt. I pour myself a little drink because I'm stressed. So like, I don't know. Like, I do think it is interesting because it will give context to this very weird world, but
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna hit. Anyway, that was my diatribe on. Let me tell you guys about all the books I read as a child and what I think. Our final S spinoffs.
Yep.
How do you feel about spinoffs? I feel like we've done so deep on everything else. Do you see spinoffs the same way that you see any of these others, or does this feel
That's
different?
a great question. Uh, well, as someone that's watching a spinoff currently,
What's spinoff?
I'm watching a Game of Thrones spinoff, House of the
Yeah.
Dragon.
Yes, your dragon show.
I loved it. Love it. Love it. Give me more. Give me all of it. I tend to be a bit apprehensive, especially if it's content that I really care about. And I think this goes for everybody, right? I think the reason why people are sometimes a little iffy on spinoffs is they don't think it's going to be made with the same love and care that the original IP was made with, which is fair. I think that's a fair assessment. I think we are in the era though of spinoffs. Um And again, I think we're in the era of IP and franchises. So
Mhm.
like every studio is like, what did the girls like? We
House
making
of
another one.
the
Like for example, John Wick is a franchise that's super popular currently. Like the latest movie that came out, like is one of the highest grossing movies. It is the highest grossing movie of the franchise. And John Wick came out, and immediately after that movie came out, they're like, "Oh, there's already a women John Wick spinoff." Not only that, we gonna double down and we're gonna make another spinoff TV show about the hotel of the John Wick universe. So they're making a whole universe with it. Again, every studio's like, what works? What do the girlies like? How do we make more of that? And I think a lot of that is a byproduct of um a lot of these. It's a streaming byproduct. I think streaming got so saturated that like a lot of arms were pulled in different places. And so like everybody thought like being Netflix was easy.
Right.
And everybody was like, we're gonna go create our own streaming platform. What they don't realize is when you create your own streaming platform, you gotta give the girlies things to watch.
Yeah.
If there's one thing Netflix does well, is variety of content globally. Netflix got something new every day.
Which
They spend,
probably
they spend, spend,
financially is
spend,
not, yeah, for the best, but
spend, spend, spend. So like a lot of these places are realizing if you if you can entice someone every single day to watch a piece of content, whether it's new, repackaged a different way, or what have you, you're already behind the ball. There's no reason, especially in 2023 when people are cutting back, people are getting laid off. Then why am I keeping you? Why am I paying you 9.99? Right? And so the John Wick studio, I think it's Paramount, did that same exact calculation. They were like, this IP is really popular. So why don't I take this IP, make a spin-off of the woman version called Ballerina, and then make a show on Paramount Plus with the same world that people love so much so we can get more subscriptions. Again, like, it's just the era we're in. So I am apprehensive of spin-offs though, but some of them are good. Like, HBO with the Game of Thrones franchise did the same exact thing. They were like, people love Game of Thrones. How can we chop this up in 7 different ways
yeah.
after the show is done? So you're gonna get House of the Dragon. They got 4 more cooking, apparently, different spin-offs.
Wow.
And are all of them gonna be good? Probably not. But it's just so happened House of the Dragon was just as good.
I think spin-offs are definitely it's a 50-50 shot, right? Like
It is. It's a crapshoot.
you are unlike shows that are like revivals with a twist. Like it's so funny you said HBO and it made me think of like Sex in the City, right? Like people were like, this is terrible, it doesn't make any sense, but they love the characters or they feel something, about having watched what they watched. So, with Sex in the City, so they keep, pushing through. Like,
Right.
and I think that like with spin-offs, you can have a little bit of that, but you don't always have a little bit of that. And so like thinking of some spin-offs like a different world, right? Like that was probably a good call, and that something like that would work today because it was like
Yeah.
you took Denise and she was in enough of a different world for you to be like, okay, I'm here, and they hit it out of the park with everyone else. So it was like, okay, great, like this is now well worth continuing to stay, and I
Hmm.
think that like that really worked. But then I think about a show like The Jeffersons, which was a spinoff of All in the Family, and George
Hmm.
Jefferson was not like a stable character, and then Archie Bunker didn't really come over. So like I think it's all about like, but I mean it worked. People loved it, but I think it's all about like what the bridge is between those two shows because I
Hmm.
can't think of what it is. But Girlfriends was a spinoff of a show too. Um, and oh, sorry, Girlfriends spun off into the game.
Ah.
That's what it was,
Okay.
and like
Okay.
that is interesting because like a lot of people don't know that. I remember learning that
Hmm.
and being like, what? And it's like, again,
I didn't know that till just now.
yeah, because like the overlap is so thin and so small. And then I think about like truly in my mind, I'm just like now I'm like riffing and I'm like, actually don't hate spinoffs. I think when they're done well, when the overlap is done right. Moesha
Yeah.
was a spinoff into the Parkers. Obviously the
Yeah.
Law and Order entire thing, like, a massive
SVU.
yeah, a massive spinoff. Like, and SVU did so well that they're like, fine, we'll bring back regular Law and Order. And so
Yeah.
that's coming back.
Yeah.
Star Trek was a spinoff or had spinoffs. Your boy Better Call Saul was a spinoff. You know what I mean?
Oh, another spinoff. That's honestly, it's to the point where like I'm willing to go and fight that it might be better than the original.
and
It
I
was that good.
and I think that that's a good one too, because like he was in enough of it, you know what I mean, where you understand
Yep.
that the worlds are the same and connected. It's
Yep.
technically a prequel. I didn't finish it. I'm
It's a
still
pre.
watching it. Yeah.
It's interesting the way they did it. It's a
Okay.
prequel and a sequel all
Okay.
at once.
Okay. Gotcha. I have not hit the point where.
Because the way they do it is like it leads up to them meeting, and then they finish the story from his perspective.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't made it that far.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I don't know. I think it's interesting. Like, it's not always a hit,
Yep.
but I do think that like when the
And I think
overlap,
now that you're mentioning this, I think the Game of Thrones one is so interesting because I feel like it was the hardest one to convince people to watch, but
yeah,
they knew that the brand was strong enough that people would come. Because I remember when they announced it, people were so angry with the way Game of Thrones ended.
right.
They swore they would never watch another Game of Thrones piece of content ever again, me included, right? And it took a lot of massaging in the marketing material, the way they marketed the show. They even had the creator, like the writer of the
Yeah.
books, come in and say, "Wait, I was very involved in this one. Trust it." Like they were copying please early because they knew their fan base
Yeah.
was not about that bullshit.
Well, I'm like, but it's your own fault, so
It was. It sure was.
shrug.
You
Like,
are correct. You are
shrug.
correct.
I don't know what else to tell y'all. So, all in all, like, I think that we can't approach them all as the same. I know we're going to continue to call them all reboots, but they're not. And I feel like, we've talked about some things where I'm like, yeah, they did that really well, and talked about things where I'm like, oof, they did that not so well. I do think,
Mhm.
all in all, like, I kind of am over a lot of it. Even the ones that do well, I'm like, sure, this was good, but like, was there did this take the spot of something that was totally new and innovative? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like,
Mhm.
I think that we need to get back to a ratio. Like, I looked it up, like 599 shows came out last year. And it feels like anytime we talk about TV and reboots, like, if you were like, what's, something that came out, like, people would probably list things that fall into that reboot, remake, revival, spin-off, sequel category.
Yeah.
And I'm like, even if it is good, like, is there not a chance that like we canceled something that was original that was better? Like the literal show called Reboot on Hulu. Um, so
Very true.
we'll see what 2023 and 2024 bring, but I think where it stands now, I'm like, enough, please. Give us peace, give us rest, because
Disney ain't gonna give you no peace, but I get you.
I know. I'm like, but you know what? That's fine because I'm gonna keep playing. I'm gonna keep pressing play on my little animated classics. 2016 Moana. We're good. We're at The Rock. He's gonna get my streaming check from that version, not the live action. Okay. Little Mermaid. I can sing this. I can sing the hits with that lady from 1989. We're good. We're Gucci. So
I'm here with you.
that's our conversation on the R's and the S's. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will be back soon.
Bye.
Bye.